Close your eyes. Picture this. It's dawn, any dawn, across 3 centuries of American history. The smell of sweat, coal dust, factory oil, or fresh-cut lumber hangs in the air. A lunch pail clangs. A whistle blows. Boots hit the ground. Whether it was 1776 or 1976, Americans worked. They clocked in, punched out, and built a nation with calloused hands and aching backs. But what was it actually like? The feel of a 12-hour shift, the sound of a loom, the fear of a pink slip. Let's walk through every era and feel what they felt. Work began at sunrise. No alarm clocks needed. Apprentices slept above the workshop and woke to the master's footsteps on creaking floorboards. Down the ladder, splash cold water on the face, pull on the same clothes from yesterday. Breakfast was porridge, bread, sometimes weak ale. Then straight to the bench. The workshop smelled like leather, sawdust, hot iron, and linseed oil. Tools were simple: hammers, chisels, awls, needles, planes. Everything was made by hand, start to finish. A shoemaker cut leather, stitched soles, hammered tiny nails into heels all day, every day. A blacksmith heated iron until it glowed orange, hammered it on the anvil, sparks flying, sweat pouring. A carpenter measured twice, sawed once, hands moving with muscle memory. Fingers got calloused within weeks, permanently stained with dye, grease, and dirt. Backs bent from hunching over workbenches for hours. Light came from windows and candles, so eye strain was constant. Squinting at stitches, at joints, at anything requiring precision. No breaks except to eat. Lunch was bread, cheese, maybe an onion. Beer brought by wives or eaten cold from the morning. Work ended at dusk, because candlelight was expensive. Sunday was the only day off, and even then there were chores. Most Americans farmed. They rose before dawn to milk cows, feed chickens, and slop hogs. The rooster crowed, and the day began. Fields required constant labor: plowing, planting, weeding, harvesting. Work followed the seasons, and it never, ever stopped. Summer meant 14-hour days in a blazing sun. Hands blistered on scythe handles and hoe grips. Sweat soaked through shirts by mid-morning. Water breaks came under trees, gulping from wooden buckets. Wives and children worked beside the men, no exceptions. Lunch was eaten in the fields, cold cornbread, bacon if they were lucky, and water that tasted like the well. Bodies ached from bending, lifting, and carrying 100-pound sacks of grain. Shoulders burned. Knees gave out. Winter meant chopping firewood until arms went numb, repairing equipment in freezing barns, and tending animals in the bitter cold. Fingers cracked and bled. Noses ran. Breath came out in clouds. Farmers went to bed exhausted every single night. Aching, dirty, too tired to talk. Then they woke and did it all over again. Harvest season was worse. From sunup to sundown, they raced against weather, against spoilage, against time. Sleep was a luxury. Work was survival. And that is just how it was. Workers woke in crowded tenements at 4 or 5 in the morning. Whole families lived in 2 rooms, sometimes 3 families sharing. Cold water was splashed on faces. They pulled on work clothes, already stiff with yesterday's sweat and grime. They grabbed the lunch pail, whatever fit inside. Out the door in darkness, feet pounding the pavement. Factory whistles blew at 6 sharp. Late meant docked pay, or worse, fired on the spot. Inside, the noise hit like a wall. Machines clattered, gears ground, steam hissed, metal on metal, relentless and deafening. Workers shouted to be heard, their throats raw by noon. The air was thick, cotton dust in textile mills, coal dust floating in clouds. Chemical fumes in refineries that burned the nose and throat. Temperature depended on the season and the boss's mood. It was sweltering in summer with no ventilation, windows painted shut or non-existent. It was freezing in winter, breath visible, fingers numb. The work itself was repetitive, mind-numbing, soul-crushing. Textile workers stood at looms for 12 to 14 hours straight, watching threads spin and weave. Fingers flew when threads broke, tying them before the foreman noticed. Eyes never left the machine. One wrong move and fingers could be crushed, hair caught and yanked, scalps torn clean off. It happened. Meatpackers stood on blood-slick floors, slicing, gutting, packing, hour after hour. Hands cramped from gripping knives. The smell of blood and offal, hot and metallic, stuck in clothes, in hair, in dreams. Steel workers faced blast furnaces. Heat so intense skin blistered from 10 feet away. Molten metal poured, orange and blinding. Sweat poured faster. One splash and a man went down screaming. Coal miners crawled through tunnels barely 3 feet high, swinging pickaxes in pitch black except for the weak flame of a headlamp. Lungs filled with dust from the first shift. Coughing up black by the end of the week. Explosions happened. Cave-ins happened. Men just disappeared. Children worked too. Small hands fit into tight spaces, crawled under spinning equipment to tie threads or clear jams. Some were 6 years old, others 7 or 8. They fell asleep standing up and got yelled awake. They kept moving or they got hit. One 30-minute lunch break if they were lucky. They ate on the factory floor, food tasting like whatever was in the air. Dust, smoke, oil. Sandwiches, cold potatoes, lukewarm coffee from dented thermoses. No bathrooms inside, just outhouses in the yard. Women held it all day rather than walk through the factory floor with men watching. No sick days. Work injured or get fired. Show up bleeding or do not show up at all. The whistle blew at 6 or 7 at night. Workers stumbled out into darkness, legs barely working. Clothes filthy, bodies wrecked, too tired to speak. They walked home in the same clothes, no showers at work. Wives had dinner waiting if there was money for food. Stew, bread, whatever stretched furthest. Ate standing, then collapsed into bed. Did it again the next day. 6 days a week, every week. No vacations, no end in sight. Factories closed overnight. Workers waited outside the gates every morning, hoping for day work. Hundreds of men, sometimes thousands, lined up at dawn in the cold. Bosses walked through and pointed at the strongest backs and the youngest faces. The rest went home with nothing. $2 for 12 hours of digging ditches, hauling bricks, and breaking rocks. Lunch was whatever fit in a pocket. Stale bread, apple cores, sometimes nothing at all. Men worked construction with hand tools, shovels, pickaxes, and sledgehammers. Backs screamed by noon. Hands bled through worn gloves. Blisters opened and sometimes got infected, but they kept working. They went home with aching muscles and empty stomachs. They did it again tomorrow if they were lucky enough to get picked. Then the war came and factories roared back to life. 24-hour shifts, 3 rotations, no days off. Women flooded in, filled the spaces men left behind. Pulled on coveralls, tied hair in kerchiefs, laced up work boots. Munitions plants, assembly lines, riveting airplane fuselages, welding ship hulls. The rivet gun kicked like a mule. Hands went numb from the vibration. Squeeze the trigger, punch the rivet, move to the next hole. Hundreds of rivets, thousands, every single day. Arms ached, shoulders burned, fingers cramped into claws. The noise was ear-splitting. Metal on metal, hammering, grinding, no hearing protection, just cotton stuffed in ears. Shouted conversations, reading lips, going home with ringing that never stopped. Lunch breaks in crowded cafeterias, long tables, metal trays. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, canned peas, white bread. 15 minutes to eat, shovel it down, back to the line. Cigarette breaks every few hours, everyone smoked, ashtrays overflowing. Hands shaking from exhaustion, lighting up just to have 2 minutes of stillness. Accidents still happened. Fingers caught in presses, arms burned on welding torches, feet crushed by falling equipment. Bandaged up, sent back to work. But the pay was better than it had ever been. $40 a week felt like wealth. Bought war bonds, sent money home, saved a little. Went home on buses packed shoulder to shoulder, fell asleep standing up. Swing shifts started at 4, graveyard at midnight. Sleep whenever possible, eat whenever possible, work the rest. Coal miners still descended into darkness before sunrise. Packed lunch pails with sandwiches, pie if wives could manage it. Coffee in battered metal thermoses. Rode the elevator down, cramped cages dropping hundreds of feet. Worked on knees in tunnels, swinging pickaxes at the coal face. Dust coated everything. Clothes, skin, teeth, lungs. Breathed it in with every breath, coughed it out black. Lunch eaten sitting on rocks in the dark. Sandwiches gritty with coal dust. Coffee lukewarm and metallic. 8 hours underground, sometimes 10, sometimes 12 when production demanded it. Emerged at dusk, faces black except for the rings around eyes where goggles sat. Wives scrubbed backs in tin tubs, water turning gray, then black. Black lung was coming for everyone, just a question of when. White-collar workers took the bus or drove their own cars. They wore suits and ties, dresses and heels, hair done, faces clean. They arrived at 9, coffee already brewing in the break room. Desks in rows, typewriters clicking like rain on tin roofs. Secretaries typed letters, filed papers in metal cabinets, answered phones with practiced voices. "Good morning. How may I direct your call?" Lunch hour meant sandwiches at the desk or the cafeteria downstairs. Tuna salad, egg salad, coffee in ceramic mugs, cigarettes in the smoking lounge. The afternoon slump hit around 3 and they fought it with more coffee, more cigarettes. Air conditioning made offices bearable, even comfortable. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. They left at 5 sharp, loosened ties in parking lots and drove home listening to the radio. Factory work got better, slowly. Unions brought 8-hour days, actual lunchrooms with vending machines and microwaves. Coffee breaks became standard, 10 minutes every 2 hours. Safety equipment appeared. Hard hats, gloves, goggles, steel-toed boots. But the work was still loud, still repetitive, still exhausting. Assembly lines moved faster than ever. Auto workers installed the same part every 45 seconds. Bolt, tighten, reach, repeat. Hands moved automatically, minds went somewhere else. Lunch whistle at noon, 30 minutes. Sandwiches from home, thermoses of soup, packaged snacks from machines. Smoke breaks in designated areas, huddles of workers in coveralls puffing away. Then the factories started closing. Jobs disappeared overseas, moved to Mexico, to China, anywhere labor was cheaper. What replaced them paid less. Service jobs, retail, warehouses, call centers. Retail workers stood for 8-hour shifts on concrete floors. Cashiers scanned items until wrists burned and fingers went numb. They smiled at customers, bit their tongues, and repeated the same phrases. "Did you find everything okay today?" Warehouse workers picked orders, walked 10 miles a shift, climbed ladders, and lifted boxes. Backs gave out by 40. Fast food workers flipped burgers in sweltering kitchens, Grease splattered on arms, and floors were slick and dangerous. Deep fryers hissed, timers beeped, customers yelled through the drive-through speaker. Call center workers sat in cubicles wearing headsets, answering complaints from angry strangers. 8 hours of apologizing, explaining, and getting yelled at. Bathroom breaks monitored, timed, tracked. Gig workers drove all day, every day. Deliveries, ride shares, constant hustle. No benefits, no guarantees, just miles and miles. They ate in cars between jobs, fast food wrappers piling up. They slept when they could, which was not often. Office workers stared at screens now instead of typewriters. Emails at midnight, Zoom calls on weekends, Slack messages at dinner. Work bled into everything. Home, bed, vacation. Always on, always reachable, always behind. The tools changed, the hours shifted, but the exhaustion stayed the same. The tools changed, the hours shifted, but the ache remained. Work was work, and Americans kept clocking in. 3 centuries of sweat and calluses, of lunch pails and time clocks, of showing up even when bodies screamed to stay in bed. From sunrise on the farm to fluorescent lights in cubicles, the grind never really stopped. It just changed shape. So, what's your memory of work? Drop it in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into how Americans actually lived, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.